my name is Dani, this is Bobbin, and I have just done about 6 intros that all sounded ridiculous. So whatever this one's like, we're going with it. So I wanted to include that my name is Dani and that I sometimes podcast more sporadically than it used to be, and I also write knitting patterns for people to enjoy. That's all I wanted to say, and I managed to butcher it 6 times already. So here we are. It is June, and no, it's not, it's July. We're keeping this, we're keeping going. It's the end of July and it's gloomy as anything outside. I have recently finished a project which was a blanket, a gift for a friend, and she's picking it up tomorrow, or I'm seeing her tomorrow, so I'm going to give her a present. And so I really wanted to show you before I give it to her, because I love it and I thought you might be interested. So instead of just filming that, which I was going to do, I thought why not gather a few bits and do a sort of old school podcast. I can't remember the last time I did one, so yeah, we'll put that down to why I'm so rusty. So I've got my little companion here. He's doing really well, lovely boy. And I think I'll just get started because this feels very unusual, and yeah, if I'm just talking about some making, it might seem a little bit easier. So I've got a few things to show you today. I've got 2 patterns that I released earlier this year, and 4 crochet projects, sort of 5, because I've been really enjoying crochet lately. And I'm also doing some knitting, but it's for designs, and I always prefer to not show those until I've actually released them, because I never know whether that day will come. So I wouldn't like to sort of show the process or show it as I go along and then not ever release it, because some lovely people might actually want to make the thing. So that's why, because I never know what's going to happen, and I don't want to not deliver on what I say, because I find that really stressful. So yeah, that, in case you were ever curious, is why I don't show my patterns until I actually release them. So yes, I've got 2 patterns to show that I've been really wanting to share on a podcast for a while. I have no concept of time anymore, so I could have released it last month, or it could have been 3 months ago, and I have no idea. Yes, so let's get started with the thing that I really wanted to show you before I give it away. I can hear footsteps. I think we're going to get a visitor. He's playing with Nanny at the moment, my son. He's 4, nearly 5 soon, and he is here. Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm just doing a video.
Can I do a video with you?
Oh, I'd love that, baby. Almost had a co-host there. Yeah, he's playing with Dani. It seems like a very elaborate game. It's over both floors of the house, and including every room, I think. So it sounds like he's having a lovely time. So while he's occupied, I thought I would come and show you some things. So let's start with this blanket. So yes, it's my friend's birthday next month, and she is my oldest friend, and I really wanted to make her something special. I've made her things before, but they've always been sort of little things, and she always appreciates them, which is good motivation to make for people, isn't it? I really fancied making her a blanket. You off, Bobbin? Do you want to go get cosy? Because I've been loving making crochet blankets, and they're much quicker than knitted ones, aren't they? So I didn't fancy knitting one. And I saw block stitch and thought that is going to be perfect for her. Now, one of the things I love about making things for people is I get out of my comfort zone a bit, because I'm sort of catering to the aesthetic of another person instead of just me, and I've really enjoyed that. I think I get very set in my ways of what I like, and it's quite nice to push out of that every so often, and this totally pushes out of that. So my friend loves black with bright flashes, and so the combination of that fact and block stitch just seemed like a match made in heaven, and I made her this. And I absolutely love how it came out. I'll get some footage of it separately, because I don't really think you're going to be able to see it properly. We had another visit. The tripod and the camera is too interesting for words. Okay, so let me sit up a little bit. So this is what the blanket looks like. I wonder how it's going to come out on the camera. But I used a Lion brand mandala. Mandala? Not sure how you pronounce that word. That's weird because I've read it so many times. Mandala. This one. In the Troll colourway. And you can see from that picture, if it's going to focus, that's what the colours go through. It's the colour change. So it was so simple and so quick, relatively, and just so enjoyable. It's like self-striping socks, isn't it? You just want to get to the next colour and see how that's going to look. Wonder if you'll be able to see. Block stitch is just so simple and enjoyable, because it's just trebles and doubles and chains in UK terminology. I love this bit. That's my favourite little patch, I think. But yes, so I think I chained on about 200 or something, and it's made a lovely size for a sofa, just to throw over your lap while you're watching telly. And I also got some little tags that you can put over the edge, you know, like over the edge like that, with the little screw in it. They came yesterday and I have no idea where they are anymore, so hopefully I'll be able to find that, because I really need to get that wrapped today. So yeah, that's what I really wanted to show you, because I'm so pleased with it. It's just really perfect for my friend, I think. I think she'll really like it. And then I just did a treble round the edge, UK terms, treble round the edge. And I did the edging first, and it was really, really wavy. So I had to rip it out, and I found that if I'm not going to be able to explain this. So I've gone in, like with the granny square, how you do 3 trebles in between each space, but that wasn't working, so I did a decrease with the first treble and the last treble of the last cluster. 1 treble and then another decrease. Does that make sense? I'm no crochet expert at all. I just really, really enjoy it. I find it really relaxing. So yes, my job for today is to find the tags and get this wrapped so that I can give it to my friend. I put this in the washing machine, which was terrifying because I've not washed acrylic in the washing machine, and I never would put my knits in the washing machine unless they're socks and I'm being lazy. So I was really trepidatious about how it might come out. I put it in with some detergent and fabric softener on a delicate cycle, and then I spun it again and it came out and it felt quite dry actually, but then I put it in the tumble dryer for probably longer than I intended because I forgot about it, but it came out and it's so soft and so lovely, and I'm really pleased that I did that process because now I can let her know how she can wash it and it comes out good as new. With the tags, they're the fold over ones and they have a screw, so it does advise that you take that screw out before you wash it, but I'm sure that she'll be able to do that. So yes, that is what I wanted to show. I didn't use a pattern, I just used block stitch and winged it, and I just love how it came out. I did the foundation chain, you know where you do the chain with a foundation row at the same time, and I absolutely love that because when I've done my granny stripe blanket before and I just did a chain, it's a little bit wavy, but this has, the first row is the same tension as the rest of the blanket, so it just looks really nice. And it also meant that I didn't have to go into any chains because I just don't enjoy that. The row back after doing the initial chain is the least enjoyable part of the whole entire project, I find, so that sort of cuts out that step, which is really nice. And I would never usually use black because it's so hard on your eyes, but with using black with this stitch is absolutely fine because you're only ever going through a sort of chain space, a larger sort of chain gap rather than into a chain. Explaining crochet is not my forte, I think we're discovering from this attempted explanation, but because I didn't have to go through any small chains and try and find my way in, it meant that using the black was absolutely fine. So a lot of tutorials that I saw about how to do block stitch, and I've done it before actually, I did it on the border of my granny square blanket that I probably showed you last year or something, maybe the year before, and a lot of the tutorials said to cut the yarn after every, or cut the contrast yarn after every row, but that would have meant that I would not have done the blanket. So I just did them back and forth, and it means that neither side is really the right side. It just looks fine to me. A crochet purist who really knows their stuff might not be pleased with the outcome, but I think it looks absolutely fine for my needs. So yes, that meant I used one skein of the Lion brand, and I think I used 4 or 5 skeins of the Starcraft Special DK in the black, so I didn't have hardly any ends to sew in really in the grand scheme of it, because crochet blankets, there can be a lot of ends, can't there? So yeah, I was really pleased about that. If I'd have cut the yarn after every row, I would just have not ever made this blanket, because sewing in all of those ends would have been horrendous. So yeah, but I'm so pleased with it, so I just wanted to show it you before I wrap it up. And I love how soft and drapey, I can't remember what size hook I used, I think it was a 4.5, but yeah, I love how soft and drapey the fabric is. Right, so wrap that up today. The other things I've been working on have also been crochet blankets. So I think I'm going to show you one finished, and then I'm going to show you a couple of patterns that I've released, and then I'll show you my in progress. Now I say finished, but as you can see it's not entirely. I have a crochet blanket downstairs, a really bright one. I showed it a few podcasts, or a couple of years ago. I still haven't finished sewing in those ends. I had all intentions to sew them in as I go. It just really ruins the flow for me. I just can't get into doing that. I'll keep trying though, because it would be so much nicer once I'm finished to be finished, instead of then having loads of ends to sew in. So my friend Alice, who's Homebody Diaries on Instagram, she started crocheting a Fireside blanket Attic 24 pattern using the colour pack, and was just enjoying it so much that she said, you just have to make this because it is so pleasurable and absolutely compulsive. And it turns out she was right. So I did make it, and I just love this. It's just so, this is like classic crochet, isn't it? I love all the different granny squares, and then it's got this sort of thicker granny square border, and I really like the scallop edge. I thought about doing a scallop edge on this one, but then I thought that I'd keep it simple, but I really love this scallop edge. That reminds me, actually, I've been making some little cotton mats to go under the pet's water and Teddy's food bowl and stuff. I did a scallop edge on those. I haven't brought them up to show you, but yeah, I've just been loving the crochet at the moment. So yeah, this is the Fireside blanket, and I love it. It was in Highland Heather's special, well, the Highland Heather's Stylecraft DK, I can't remember the exact name, but it was in the pack that was designed for the blanket. And I just love how it came out. Oh, I just remembered something else I made. A crochet bag. Oh, I'll show you another time. But yeah, that's all there is to this really. It was a really enjoyable project, and I really can't wait to sew in the end so that I can give it a wash and see how it comes out. Really love it. It's interesting, this one's square, and my edge turned out a little bit ripply for some reason, but I'm wondering if that will relax a bit when I wash it, because this certainly relaxed, so we'll see. But yeah, Fireside blanket. I think that was on a 5mm hook. Really enjoyable. The squares were done in join as you go, so no sewing together, and it's lovely. But yeah, not much to say about that one really. It was just really fun. I'm going to show you a couple of my patterns that I recently released. It's so funny with these patterns because I released them a while back, I can't remember when, and then memories come up on my phone of like, the year before that, blah blah blah, and it always makes me laugh how long I actually take to design patterns, because I think a picture came up of when I first designed either these ones or these ones, I can't remember, and it was a year before I sort of started designing it, and then I thought, oh no, that won't work, or oh, I'm not keen on that, or that's not exactly what I was going for, and then a year later I go back to it and think, actually I like that, and then I properly work on it and start to work to get it out as a pattern. But yeah, my process is not a quick one. I think I'll show you these because they're already on the sock blocker. So something that I was going to use as my inspiration this year is the Biscuit, Buttons and Pickles books that I used to love when I was little. So my Goose Eggs quilt that I released in January is also inspired by these books. I think there are 5 in the series, and they're just lovely books. I really liked them when I was little. I've actually got the dolls, Violet Pickles and Ruby Buttons, in the other room. I really like the illustrations and I liked the sweet little stories. I remember reading these a lot when I was younger, so it's been so nice to sort of get back to them and have another look through them. That's just my favourite way to design. Like, if you've watched before, you know that I had made a lot of designs based on the Brambley Hedge books as well. I just think books from childhood leave such a impression, and it's so pleasurable for me sort of going back into those and almost like working out what it was I liked about them, finding that I still really love them and still get really absorbed. The sort of warm feelings that nostalgia brings, it's just such a pleasure to look through them again and look at them a bit more in a bit of a different way now and come up with patterns based on them. It's just such a pleasure. So yeah, I really love the illustrations, and the stories are so gentle and sweet. So yes, this is the first book in the series. It's called Ivy Cottage, and they led me to design the Ivy Cottage socks, and I love these. And these were ones that I designed and I thought, no, that's not right. Left for a year and then came back to and thought, actually that could be really lovely. Just got to do that sometimes. I wonder if you do the same and you'll finish something and think, oh no, that's no good, and then put it away for a while, come back to it and think, actually that's really lovely. I don't know why I didn't like it before. So yeah, I think part of it with these, I find I can't just use any old yarn to do the sample, because it will really inform how I feel about the thing in the end. And I used some yarn that just didn't really work with the pattern. You couldn't really, it wasn't eliciting the right feelings from me when I looked at it. The yarn wasn't, the match of yarn and pattern is so important, isn't it? And it wasn't the right yarn for the pattern, so it didn't even allow me to sort of see how much potential the pattern had. So when I went back to it again, I sort of saw the sample that I'd done and I thought, I wonder, and then I had this yarn which is from Lay Family Yarn. It's the Cafe au Lait, and it was a sock set with these 2 colours, and I thought that's going to be just right in that yarn, and I knit it and I just think it's perfect in this yarn. And interestingly enough, it wasn't intentional, but the colours just go perfectly with the inspiration. which was just pure chance, but it sort of makes me think how much is going on in there, my brain or our brains, that we don't even know, or that we don't even notice. We have so many thoughts in a day. I wonder how many get registered by our brains but not fully by our consciousness, because it just couldn't be more perfect. The colours are absolutely perfect in that book. So yeah, these are the Ivy Cottage socks, and they're such a pleasurable, simple, repetitive, meditative pattern. Really enjoyable to work. You can sort of read your knitting, so by the time you've done the repeat a couple of times you don't need the pattern anymore. And I decided to take the pattern down into the heel. I was thinking, because Ivy Cottage is about Miss Biscuit and Violet Pickles moving to a cottage in the country that is covered by ivy, and I was sort of thinking about these sort of textured lines as the ivy and the straighter lines as the lines in the building, like the more architectural solid lines. And I thought I'd take it down to the heel because that's unusual for me. I usually would use a slip stitch or an eye partridge heel. I was thinking about how the house is completely covered in ivy, so I wanted all bits of this that were possible to be covered in the pattern, to be covered. So yeah, I decided to take it over the heel, and I'm really pleased with how they came out. So yeah, I enjoyed those. I have a few more ideas in the works with patterns inspired by the Biscuit, Buttons and Pickles books. It's just such a pleasure going through these books again, and it's so nice because when I released this pattern, I shared that it was inspired by this book, and I had my dolls, and a few people said, oh yeah, I used to read those when I was young, or I read them to my children and they had the dolls too, and it's just so nice. I really love those moments of shared history. I think it's beautiful. So yeah, really love it. So yes, they're the Ivy Cottage socks. I really enjoy them, and hope you will too if you've knit them already. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed knitting and wearing them. I'm really pleased with them, and it's just so fascinating how I can sample a pattern and think, no, that's not right, leave it a year, and then pick it up again and think, yes, that can be something. It's just happened to me again. I started something, I think it was last year, maybe a little bit before, and I put it to the side and I thought, no, that's not going to work. And a lot of the times when I think something's not going to work, I have to sort of work out whether it's actually that it's not going to work and that it won't be attractive, or is it just because this pattern is something different, it's not socks, it's nothing that I've designed before, is it just my confidence in putting out something new? And I think in this instance it's my confidence because it's something new, because I think the finished object will be really lovely. So I've picked that back up again and started working on it again, and I'm really looking forward to getting that out. I started designing something else that was the same object a couple of years ago, and the photo of that came up in my camera roll the other day, and when I designed it I thought, oh no, that's not going to work, absolutely not, ripped it out, and then I saw the picture and I thought, actually that's really quite nice. I think that was a case of I hadn't used the right yarn for the project, so I couldn't see past that issue. and unfortunately with that one I think I just got rid of the my notes on the pattern as well, because I thought no, definitely not going to work. But it really has affirmed to me how important it is to design in the right yarn, because it can so skew my feelings on the thing. Anyway, so another pattern that I released, I can't remember when, but these had been a work in progress for a long time also, are the Sentimental socks. And these are in the Wool Barn cashmere sock, which is my absolute favourite. I think the colourway is coral, and that yarn, it is my top favourite. Always will be, I think. And they were inspired by this photo. So this is a photo of me when I was, I can't remember how old we said I was, 4 or 5. Mum found it a while ago, probably 3 or so years ago. I think we were having a conversation about how much my son looks like me, because he looked so much like me when I was little, and Mum found this picture out. I'm in a jumper that she had knitted, which was part of the inspiration, but also the fact that my son looks exactly like me in this picture with the chubby cheeks, and we just look identical. And so this picture became very, very special, and the sort of how this represented 3 generations in this picture, because there's my mum with the jumper that she knit me with love. I think she might have had a matching one, I'm not sure. Mum used to make us matching things quite frequently, and me obviously, and the fact that we can see my son's face in the little version of me just meant this picture was so special, and I really wanted to take some inspiration from it. So I sort of looked at the jumper that Mum had knit me in the picture and tried to design some socks based on that, and this is what I came up with. So they're not cables, it's just regular simple increases and decreases, and I'm thrilled with how these came out. I absolutely love these. It's just got the pattern going down the front, and this is one of those patterns, and then it's plain on the back with a slip stitch heel. This is one of those patterns that looks so much harder than it is. It's sort of one of those quietly impressive ones where actually the process is very simple, but it has a really nice intricate finish, and I love that sort of pattern. It's really I found this a really enjoyable pattern to do. It's got a flow to it that I really enjoyed. So yeah, these are the Sentimental socks. I've just noticed here, I laid these out to take the photo of them for the pattern and to put on Instagram. Then I came in, I've probably got this on video somewhere. I came into the room after I'd just left it on the bed, and I found Teddy, and Teddy was cuddling these socks, and I thought, oh, that's so sweet, how lovely, oh, I love Teddy. And he pulled a big pull in the stitches, so I did think he was slightly less cute after that, but well, all was forgiven because he looked at me with his sleepy eyes, and I love him even though he merely tolerates me. But yeah, so they're the Sentimental socks. They were just a pleasure to do, and it took me quite a while to design these because I get so attached to the inspiration source, and this is such a special one because it is so personal to me, and I love it. I love how much I can see my son's face in me. It's just, oh, he is the absolute light of my life. so lucky. Right, I'm just going to stop the camera because I think it's going to go to sleep in a second. So they're my patterns that I have recently bought out, and I'm working on 2 others at the moment that I hope won't take too long to be out. I find it really difficult to design and podcast and do anything like that really at the moment, because I'm so consumed by my son, and I'm very happy with that. It's an absolute pleasure that I get to spend all of my time with him, because he is such a profound joy. But I would like to be doing a little bit more designing, and I miss the connection that I have with people when I share stuff and they share what they're doing and have that conversation. So I have been thinking about how to move forward with that lately, and I'm not sure still. I had a lot of different thoughts, like I'd quite like to start a newsletter, because I think that that would be a really nice way to directly communicate with the people who are interested in the things I put out there, patterns, podcasts, whatever. I thought it could be like a little journal, monthly journal, just a little catch up. So I think I probably will do that. I'm just not feeling inspired by Instagram at the moment. It feels very different to how it used to be, and it feels like a lot of noise, and it's just not somewhere I'm feeling particularly inclined to be at the moment. So finding a place to meet and connect with the people who I enjoy speaking to and who like seeing what I'm up to, it's tricky, because Instagram's always been that sort of hub, and then the podcast a bit more infrequently. And I have thought about Patreon, because I do really like the concept of being able to share videos and blog posts all in the same place, and the fact that there would be some sort of financial recompense for my work is really appealing, because cost of living is wowee at the moment, and I really like the idea that you can really share in a sort of really rounded way. I mean, I might not have time to get my tripod out, my camera out and do a video, but I could type up a blog post. I could add in a couple of pictures that I've snapped, share my project, and then have a conversation in the comments. It would be going to people who are interested already, and I just really like that idea. I feel like the ability to build the community in that sort of environment would be really pleasurable, and yeah, so I'm not sure. And I still like videos to put on YouTube, but they take such a long time that I just can't get round to it very frequently. And whereas, like, I was mentioning those little crochet mats I'd made for the pets' water and food, I made those. That'd be lovely just to pop that in a blog post, show you what I'd done. But I wouldn't be inclined to get the camera out to film that, to put up a video about it, because it's just a little quick project. So yeah, that's all been going around in my mind lately, sort of trying to find my new way, because old way just won't work. And I think I've been sort of beating myself up a little bit that old way won't work for me anymore, and sort of thinking as the months go by, oh, I really wish I'd put out a podcast, or I'd really like to have put out a podcast. But it's a strange situation, because not only do I not get time to do the podcast, I'm not creating or making with the same volume as I was. So anyway, you don't need to hear all of my internal workings. I'm just thinking about what would enable me to share and build the connections that I really enjoy and really miss sometimes. Hello, I'm back. My camera just ran out of battery, so we had to take a little pause while I charged up a battery. But in that time I found the tags that I mentioned. So I decided, because I'm making a few blankets this year, I really wanted to put labels on them with what year they were made in. So I got these ones, I think it was from Two Little Rainbows maybe, on Etsy, and they're just the sort of ultra suede fabric, the synthetic material, and I've just got Dani 2023 written on there. And yeah, they attach with just a little screw. I was really unsure about what colour to get, and I don't know if I made the right choice or not. I was thinking like just a tan colour might be good, but I went with pink, this pale pink, which I liked. But you had to, it was a minimum of 10, so I think I'll have enough blankets or things to have 10 things on, or 10 of these 2023 ones. I'd like to get them for the previous years, but I don't want 10 of the previous years, so I'm gonna have to try and find a way of doing that. But like I was saying earlier, how time just has no meaning anymore, I just really like knowing when I made something. And if you make a quilt, usually you will put a label on the back saying who it's made by and when it was made, and I just thought, why not do that for knitting and crochet? So yeah, just says Dani 2023. I might consider putting another little thing on there underneath next year, because there's a bit of space under there, but I don't know, and I might try a different font next year. But anyway, I don't need to think about that now, but I just quite like them. They're quite simple and they do the job that I wanted them to do. You see, who it's by and the year it was made. So now that is actually ready to wrap. Very exciting. I can't remember what I was talking about before the camera went off. I think I was talking about how I'm considering how to move forward with everything. But yeah, if you have any thoughts about that, I'd be really interested. So another project that I'm working on, actually I'll show this one in a minute. Another project that I'm working on, and another example of why I really like making things for other people, is this. So I have someone else in my life who absolutely loves bright colours, and I really wanted to make her something, and I hope that she is not watching this. I don't think she will be, but if she is, she'll know exactly who she is. So I hope she's not watching. But I really wanted to make her something, and she loves bright colours. So my initial thought was that I would make her a fireside blanket just with really bright colours. So that's what I got. So I sort of substituted the colours in the fireside blanket for super bright ones. Very, very bright. And I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be really out of my comfort zone because these colours are so bright. I wonder if they're coming up as bright as they actually are. I got these little yarn wraps from, I think it's Lorette Crafts on Etsy, and I really like them when you're doing a blanket like this with, because I've written out my plan for the colours, and so I don't have to keep getting the balls out of the basket, which makes them all untidy. I can just look at which colour it is on the yarn wrap, even though you quickly know the colours, especially with this sort of palette. With that, the first fireside blanket, I did have to keep checking which ones the colours were. They didn't stay in my mind as much, I think, because the colours are a lot closer, and there are sort of 3 blues that are similar. So I had to keep checking which colours they were. With this, I don't think it's as essential, but it's exceedingly aesthetically pleasing. I really, really like how they look. They're so cute. And so yes, my initial plan was to do a fireside blanket. So I switched the colours and made myself a plan, wrote down what everything would be, because one of the things that I really enjoy about crochet is just following a recipe. So having the colours planned out for me. I'm actually making another crochet blanket at the moment, but it's with all of my scraps. Well, this is actually with all of my scraps, but it's with all of my acrylic scraps, and I haven't got a plan for it. It's just random, and I find it so much less compulsive to work on because I have to sort of think of which colours to use together, and I want it to be random, so I don't want to over analyse what colours I'm putting next to each other. But at the same time, I want it random, but I don't want the colours to be the same as in another colour and in another block. So I'm having to sort of think which colours I should put together, and that thought process is too much thinking for me right now. So I'm finding that I'm not doing it. So this, I wrote down all of the colours. Like in the initial one, all the colours are written out for you. I just swapped the colours and then wrote it all out so that I knew exactly what I was doing. So that was the plan, and I started it and it was going swimmingly, and I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed working with these absolutely vivid colours. It has been such a pleasure. They are so out of my comfort zone, but so fun and just make me smile. Now I wonder what colours you are going to see in the camera, because I've found when I've taken a picture of this colour, this green, it's not coming out the same because it is a proper highlighter green, and this orange is a proper highlighter orange, and I love this like fluorescent pink. I love that colour combination actually. It's fluorescent pink, lilac and an icy blue. I absolutely love this. I think it is just so much fun. I love it. I've done it slightly different to the fireside blanket actually. In the fireside blanket, I wonder if I can just show you, it's got sort of flowers, granny flowers, whereas I've just done traditional granny squares. I wonder if you can see the difference. I can't even see if it's focusing because my head is behind. Oh, so yeah, flowers and just regular squares. Because I wanted this to be just really enjoyable and to not have to think, because gosh, what luxury it is to not be able to think for a little while. So yeah, it's slightly different, but the same, pretty much the same. I'm using the same order and everything, the same layout, just granny squares as opposed to granny flowery things. So yes, that is what I was doing. But then I saw on Instagram, Katie Jones, I can't remember her Instagram name, but a crochet designer called Katie Jones. I saw one of her pictures and it was of her room, and there was a blanket at the end of the bed, and I just thought, oh, that blanket would be absolutely perfect. It's sort of quite contemporary, really beautifully bright, and looks really fun to do, and it might be nice to do something different. So with that Fireside, I actually think I'm going to finish it for me, because it is just so happy and bright. But now for my gift recipient, I'm going to make that blanket that I spotted. So I had to do a bit of digging, and the blanket was actually a pattern in the book that Katie bought out, I think recently, and I'm just trying to find the page. Oh, this is the book, Hip to Be Square by Katie Jones. I got it from the library, which was very happy that they had it in. I really should mark the page. Ah, here it is. So it's called the Spots and Stripes blanket. It's so simple and just so effective. It's just my favourite sort of pattern. So I wonder if you can see it. Let me. So it's just loads of round circles and then lines of granny square. These circles are joined as you go. Now the sample in the book she's done with a chunky yarn, and I want to use the DK that I got for the Fireside because I have it, and I chose those colours specifically for the recipient, so I want to use them. So I'm going to have to do it slightly differently, but I've started. You start by making the circles. Well, I don't know actually. I'm starting by making the circles. I'm making 4 of each colour, and then I'm going to organise them into an order. And because that's in chunky and I'm using DK, I think I'm going to use like an extra circle and an extra row. I think that that'll probably make a good size. And then I'm just, because I think the pattern in the book uses 7 colours and I'm using 12, but yeah, when all the circles are done, I'll lay them out and work out where I'm going to put all the different colours. But I did think about taking out some of the colours and only using 7, or maybe just using 8 and making it a little bit bigger. But I love all the colours, and I think they all really complement each other into making this just brighter than anything, just happy piece. So I'm going to use all of the colours and just work it out after the event. I've actually, look at this, would you believe, I've sewn in some ends. These have got their ends sewn in. The other reason I was quite into the idea of doing this, I love how this looks. It's so out of my comfort zone, but just so much fun. I found a tutorial on YouTube, which I will link to if you're interested. Just let me know in the comments. And it's a tutorial about how to do granny squares so that you only have one end to sew in at the end. Sorry, my brain just went completely blank. So yeah, you only have one end to sew in at the end. So I also would prefer that my first time trying that on a blanket is for me, so that if it does end up coming out in the washing process, I will know, so I won't use it in the future for other people's gifts for other people. But that obviously is incredibly attractive to me, having, so you can change colour as many times as you want and you will only have one end to sew in, and the process of doing it is so simple, and you just get into the swing of doing it, that I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I will definitely continue this blanket for me using that same process. Cos, look, no ends. I didn't even know I'd sewn in all these ends. So yeah, you'll only have the colour, or the end from the outer colour to sew in, because all the rest just get knotted in a certain way and snipped off. But I do sort of think, is that too good to be true? The person who did the video has been making blankets for a very long time and has said that she has never had an experience of them coming loose, so I thought, well, I have to try it. But yeah, so I'll do that with the same technique and then wash it and things. And anyway, what was I saying? Oh, I've done these ones already as well. I'm using a 5mm hook, and I think if I'd have used a smaller hook I wouldn't be getting such wibbly circles, but once they're sort of pressed out into shape, they're not wibbly. And once they've got the join as you go granny thing around them, I'm sure they'll be flat. Like these ones are quite flat, they've just been shoved in the side of my basket, so they're not completely flat. But yeah, so I'm working on 4 of each, and I've done 1, 2, 3, 4 colours out of 12 so far. But this blanket's going to be for Christmas, so hopefully I'll get it done in time. But yeah, I just love them, and it's so unexpected how much I love them, because I planned the yarn out and then it came and I thought, oh my goodness, this is too much. This is just, it's going to look awful. And then I swapped the colours over and I started writing out what the order of it was going to be. And I started writing down the names of the colours, and then sort of I visualise as I go that how the colours would look together, and I think, oh, that is going to look awful. That little colour combination is going to look terrible. And I really wasn't optimistic. I thought that it was going to be a disaster. But every square that I did, I love. The ones that I thought would look absolutely awful, I love. So it's really interesting. It's, yeah, it's fun. Out of my comfort zone and fun. And yeah, I'm using acrylic again because I want it to be easy for her to wash, because yeah, many reasons which I won't go into, because if she is watching and doesn't know it's her, then those things would identify her a bit. But then I have this in my stash, which is a cream, which is looking very white, but is actually a cream that I may use for the joining rows and the granny squares. And that would be great because I have it in my stash and would love to be able to use it. But I don't know if cream will work. It might look better with white, because that just might really let the colours sing. Yeah, it's white in the book. I don't know. We'll see. This book's very interesting. It's just really playful. There's just a few different patterns. Look at that. From cardigans to collars to vests, hats. Look at that scarf. That scarf is glorious. But I think the sort of idea behind the book is she's given you the different block patterns, and all of the block patterns will work So they're the 5 different blocks that she's given you instruction for. And then all of those different blocks will work for all of the different patterns. So for example, you see this, what would be a good example? I do quite like this jumper actually. I wouldn't wear it in these colours, I don't think, but it looks really fun. But yeah, so let me see what would be a good example. Let me see. Okay, so this vest, for example, which is cute. I think the premise behind the book is you can follow this pattern, or you can change the squares for the squares that you really like, because all of the squares are the same amount of rounds, so we'll they're just completely interchangeable. I think that was a really roundabout way of explaining that, but hopefully you know what I mean. So this top, for example, if you wanted to make that, you could make it as it is, or you could pick any of the other blocks and use them instead, which is a nice concept. I really quite like this cardigan as well. I just don't know if I would crochet a garment. I don't know if I feel like I would have the expertise needed for making it fit properly, but I suppose something like this, the one I showed you, it's so boxy that fit isn't really a big thing. And then choosing the yarn would be interesting too, because one of the reasons that I find acrylic works so well with crochet is because you use so much more yarn. And if you do, like my granny's striped blanket downstairs that I've done in sock yarn, obviously sock yarn is wool, wool or wool nylon or that sort of thing, and it's so heavy. I think I heard once that you use 3 times as much yarn in crochet than you do in knitting, so a blanket the same size in knitting would be much lighter, but yeah, in crochet it's much heavier. So I wonder what would be a good yarn to do in crochet, because I would prefer to wear natural fibres, but I wouldn't want to be really weighed down. Like this is made in cotton Aran, and cotton's quite heavy. I'm just really interested in how that would be for a garment. If you've made crochet garments, I'd be so interested to hear your experience, what you used and how the garment feels, and if you knit as well, like how they feel different or the same, like what the how they are compared to each other. I can sort of see the vest tops and things that are done in crochet because they're small, but then a jumper in crochet, would it be really heavy if you used a wool or something? Maybe I just need to try it, but I'd be really interested if you could share your experience if you've done that, because I love the granny square, like that cardigan. I'm not sure what colours, or that jumper, I'm not sure what colours I do it in. It's called a quilt cardigan, and it does look so cosy and fun and just really sweet. I don't know what I'd wear it with, because I just wear single colours mostly. but in that sense, I'm just having, my internal monologue is just falling out of my head right now. But in that sense, with this, it's sort of it's almost like a jacket, so that would be fine if it was a bit heavier, wouldn't it? So in this pattern, they've used a chunky or 2 strands of DK held together. It doesn't actually say the exact yarn that was used, it just says the weight and the fibre content. So this was worked in a merino and alpaca chunky yarn, but it doesn't say the brand or anything. Or they suggest the variation of 2 strands of DK. And then with alpaca, because that is so drapey, what would that be like in a garment with so much more weight? Would it come out of shape more? Just don't know. But yeah, anyway, if you have experience of that, I'd be really interested to hear how you have got on with it. So yeah, I like that book. I'm really pleased I found it at the library, because I didn't imagine that I would, and I wanted to have a look at it ideally before buying it, and I don't know if I would buy it or not, because I don't know if I'll use it for many other things. But yeah, I just love the library. It's so good being able to have a good look at books and not just buy them and they sit on the shelf. That is just so much fun. I would never wear it. It would be pointless for me to make, but I think it is glorious. I've done a shorter version there, which I could make, could possibly wear. But yeah, I'd recommend, if you like a bit of bright, simple crochet, picking that up at the library if you're interested. And then my last project is another crochet project. Like I said, I've got some knitting on the needles, like I'm making my goose eggs quilt squares, and I've got 2 patterns that I'm working on at the moment. But all of my sort of personal projects seem to be crochet at the moment. So this one is, I can't remember the designer. I think it's something like Nautical on Instagram. I'll put it on the screen, I think, because I'll have to look. But they came out with this pattern, and it's hexagons, and they're so pretty, and then they're all join as you go at the end, and I just thought that I'd really like to give it a try. And look how sweet. Well, there's ends. I'm going to have to sew in some of these ends. Please make me, because otherwise there are going to be so many at the end. It just looks so lovely. Let me show you. I wonder if it'll show up well on this. So that's the block. Get on camera, you can do it. Give you a hand. You got it? So there's trebles, it's all in UK terms, so trebles, then there's this puff stitch, then there's this cluster, then there's trebles on the outside. And they're just so fun to do. I haven't done any for a little while actually, because I've been doing the other things, but it's such, they're so lovely, and I really enjoy that they're in one colour, and it's really fun using all of my scraps. So I worked out for a sort of nice good size. Interestingly, the size is quite different, but I think that that will be fine. The size difference between the blocks is noticeable, but I think it'll be fine when they're all joined together, because this is a single ply and this is a, I think this might be hedgehog fibres, and that sock yarn from years ago was quite a thin one, wasn't it? So they do vary in size a bit. What's that one? Yeah, that's a little bit bigger because it's a sock yarn, but it's a bit puffier. Oh, this is cashmere sock from the Wool Barn, I know that. And that's, yeah, that's slightly bigger because that's a plumper sock yarn. Anyway, what was I just saying? I worked out that I would need around 200 and something for a good sized blanket, and I think I'll join them together just with probably cream or something like that, because I don't want to detract from all of the colours that are in the blanket. I think I've got about 60 so far, and I was thinking I'd probably try and just do one, use each yarn once, and I've got a lot of minis and leftovers, so that should be manageable. Look at that one. That's fluorescent yellow. I don't know if that's going to come across in the same colour, but that will just add such a lovely little pop of colour in the blanket. As they're all sort of minis, well, they're mostly minis that I've bought or used, and they're leftovers, all of the colours are quite soft, so I think having those sort of really bright pops will just bring the blanket to life a little bit. Take it from being something that could be quite drab to, or just plain soft, to being something quite striking, hopefully. I love that colour. I think that's a river knits. It just makes me think of marmalade, and that's really nice. Yeah, so I've got lots and lots of hexagons. It's a really nice block to work. There's a tweedy one as well. There's some tweed ones in there too. It's been really nice working with my leftovers again, because it always reminds you of the patterns that you've made, or the projects that you've made with the yarn in the first place, doesn't it? So that's been really nice. And it might be like some of them are a little bit dark, so I might not put those in the end, but I'll just lay it all out together and see how they look. That's how many I've made so far. Like this is going to be quite a heavy blanket because it's lots of wool. So yeah, we'll see. But it's a really enjoyable project. I'm using a 3mm hook, and don't hooks make a difference? I was just using some generic one that I've had for ages, because I couldn't find my clover hook. I like the Clover and More hooks, and yeah, as soon as I found that and started using that, it just makes the process even more pleasurable. It's me again. I'm just adding this little bit of video in because I remembered a project I had forgotten to show you, and I think it's my favourite thing that I've made recently, so I had to just do a little video. I made this bag. It's the Granny Square bag, and I love it so much. I used this yarn, which I don't know how to pronounce, and I know I get wrong. Stonewash. It's a cotton and acrylic blend. I thought that would be quite good for the bag, and I loved it so much. It's given the bag a sort of quite like worn, vintagey, lovely, cozy look. So yeah, it's just granny squares that I joined as I went, join as you go technique, and it's one granny square wide, and then each side has 12. And then the base. Oh, I just love it so much. It's so just better than I could have expected, actually. And I've got this handle that I got from Festival of Quilts absolutely years ago, and I've never known what to do with it, but I really liked how it came with some hardware. I think it just adds to the sort of polished look.
Hi, Mommy.
Hi, baby. We had another visit. I'm so rarely, if ever, out of bounds to him that when I am, it's just not appropriate for him. And he wants to be really close to me when he can't be. So yeah, it just doesn't happen often, so it's not, he's not comfortable with it. Not thrilled about it. But he's fine. I've said I'll be 5 minutes and then I'll be done and at his disposal again. So yeah, I put this handle on, which I got from Festival of Quilts, and I absolutely love. I found it really difficult to find nice looking handles, especially because I don't particularly want actual leather. I'd prefer a fake version, but still with the same look, which is what this is. So Mum's going to the Festival of Quilts soon. I've asked her to see if she can look out for them. It's just so much nicer than lots of the handles that I saw when I was looking around for them. And also, I prefer this style. There were lots that you could sew on either side, but I didn't really want to do that. And then I sort of gathered it around the top with some doubles to sort of bring it in a little bit and keep it from going baggy. I didn't block this or anything because I didn't know whether that would change the hand of the fabric. I didn't know whether it would make it a bit too floppy, so I just didn't. And this is where I got lots of practice doing the granny squares with only one end to sew in, like I mentioned earlier. So all of these, I thought a bag it'd be alright because it's not going to get that much, well, it's not going to be washed particularly, and it's not going to be like moved about like a blanket would. So I thought that would be a really good place to use it. So yes, each of these squares, even though there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colours, I only sewed in one end, and it was heavenly. So good. And at the top, I just put a tie. I knitted an I-cord tie because I couldn't work out how I wanted to close it. I knew I wanted to bring it in somehow, but I wasn't sure how. And I saw sort of closures. I didn't really like any of them, so I went with this. And I did try a sort of flat over the top, but I didn't like how that interrupted the granny square, so I didn't go with that. And instead of lining it, just take that out. Instead of lining it, I put in a bag organizer thing. So it's got 2 zip compartments and a big open pocket, and then a couple of little pockets here, and I just secured it at the top and the bottom with a couple of stitches so it doesn't move around too much when it's in the bag. I don't know if you can see how I doubt you can actually. I've just sort of sewn, just sort of attached it. This isn't really showing it, is it? But I've just sort of sewn it on, and then at the bottom I've used some sort of hard plastic webbing, which has just given it a bit of stability. I'd quite like, and I probably wouldn't with this because I've sewn the lining in now, but I would quite like to put feet on it. I think that would be really nice. Some sort of foliage on the bottom. But yeah, I think feet would work really well on this bag. So I'm considering that. I might think about getting some feet for it, because I could just move the lining to the side because I've only attached it sort of at the top and the bottom, and I've sewn it to the webbing at the bottom too, just to keep it all nice and sturdy. But I really love it. I'm so thrilled with it. And yeah, just give that a couple of knots. I just sewed that on by going round and round, and it seems sturdy enough. Yeah, I did it like this. I if you can see. So there's the front and the back and the sides. And I worked out the colour distribution on a random granny square colour generator. So I did all the squares as if these bits weren't cut out, and then just erased those from the instructions. I just excluded those. I didn't make them. And yeah, that's how I did it. And I love it so much. It's just perfect little bag. So yeah, I had to show you that before I signed off because I'm so proud of it. Anyway, I'll go back to saying goodbye now, which I think is what I'll end the video with. So yeah, back to earlier me. So yes, that is what I'm working on at the moment. I hope you enjoyed seeing them. I've really enjoyed chatting to you, and do say hello in the comments and let me know what you're up to. It'd be lovely to hear from you, and I'd be really interested to hear about the crochet garments if you've made them, and your thoughts on my ramblings about how to move forward, sort of maintaining the connection and sharing, and yeah, that part. I'd be really interested. It's been so lovely chatting to you today. So I'm going to go downstairs now. In the break where I had to stop to charge the battery, I had to be a pterodactyl, so I assume that I will be going down and being a pterodactyl again. And I really hope you're well, and I hope to speak to you soon. Bye.